What's up, a cinema Shogun here, and this morning I started out my morning much like I start out every morning. I roll out of bed and I immediately check online to see what's going on in the news, look on social media for a minute to get a feel for what's going on so I can go ahead and prepare to make content for all of you all. And naturally, over the last couple of months, I've been covering the Johnny Depp trial. So I've been looking into the Johnny Depp situation every morning as soon as I wake up. Well, today I noticed that there was something trending. It was a hashtag called Cut for Amber. And this immediately piqued my interest because I'm like, okay, what the heck is this? And part of me wishes that I didn't click on it in the first place. But I did. And what I saw was completely disturbing. Trigger warning to everyone out there, this is going to get a little crazy. I'm not going to go deep into detail about what I saw. Some of you all have already watched my last video. If you haven't, I recommend that you watch that video and you share that video. Because it's important to spread the word about what is going on here, to get more eyes on this situation, to get on top of this situation. Because people who are in AH's fan base are literally using their social media platforms to encourage others to harm themselves. And instead of shying away from it, instead of acting like it's toxic and, you don't want to talk about it, it's time to have these conversations. These difficult conversations. But what I saw was a bunch of pictures and a bunch of social media accounts basically sharing pictures and videos of themselves harming themselves. Pictures of cut wounds, bleeding, dripping blood, you name it. It was really disturbing. It was really disturbing. And I'm not going to share, obviously, the photos and stuff here, but they're there. So as I scrolled through this hashtag, I noticed that there was a Twitter Spaces going on by the name of hashtag Cut for Amber. And in that Twitter Spaces was hundreds of people who had shared photos of them supposedly hurting themselves. And they were all in this chat room talking about it. I guess they found someone who was just as crazy as they were. And they had formed this little clubhouse on Twitter. Twitter allowed this. Meanwhile, YouTube and other social media platforms hold me back from spreading the truth about random news stories. Yet Twitter allowed these people to form a Twitter Spaces in which they talked about hurting themselves and they encouraged other people to hurt themselves. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to enter into this group. I'm going to ask to be a speaker within this group. I'm not going to let them know that, I'm on Johnny Depp's side, because these are all AH fans, for the most part, that were in this group. And I just waited for my chance to speak. And once I got a chance to speak, I probably talked for around 20 minutes before I actually started recording and making a video, because I was literally naked in bed while this was going on. I didn't expect this to happen, but it did. And then him is like, man, I need to document this. I need to record this. So there's a lot of stuff that I missed in the video. But basically, I had already got a feel for what type of people these people were. Because I listened into this Twitter space for about 45 minutes before I ever even got a chance to talk. And, one person was comparing themselves to Jesus Christ, saying that, Jesus died on the cross for our sins and that they are sacrificing themselves for Amber Turd, and that when they hurt themselves, it's kind of like what Jesus did. It was so much weird stuff going on. They were calling Johnny Depp racist. And right when I got a chance to speak, and from the get-go, I was like, hey, I was raised by a single mother. I went on a spiel as if I was about to sympathize with them. And then I just basically boiled down to me saying that, hey, I know for a fact AH is lying. The trial proved that she was lying. And then I delivered one line that just really pissed these people off. I said, and I'm sorry to joke here, but I'll get to why this turned into a little bit of a joke, within itself in a moment, even though it's not a joking matter. But I said something along the lines of, okay, you guys, because they accused, I'm sorry if I'm all over the place here, this is a lot going on. They accused Johnny Depp of being racist and said that he did blackface, or a form of blackface, by being in a movie where he's a Native American. So therefore he's racist. So I made the point that Amber Turd played a mermaid in Aquaman, and she's not really a mermaid. Therefore, that's offensive to real mermaids everywhere. And that sent these people off the deep end. Mind you, they were already off the deep end to begin with, because they're literally forming a clubhouse of people who harm themselves when Amber Heard gets upset. So it was a lot to take in, but I gotta feel that a lot of these people in here were trolls. They were going along with the storyline that they were doing this to themselves, but they were trolling. I also got a sense that a lot of people were just in here just wanting an opportunity to be mean to people. But I also got a sense that some of the people in here were dead serious about what they were talking about. They were really serious about what was going on. And regardless if these people were really hurting themselves or not, they were sharing photos of someone doing it and videos of someone doing it. So it was either them physically doing that to themselves, or they had a stockpile of photos and videos of other people doing it, and they were just sharing it everywhere online. So by the time I got to speak, I had kind of lost my patience with these people. I wanted to approach this as a serious situation. I wanted to go in, have a serious conversation with these people, and try to be a voice of reason for these people. But when you're entering into a room of hundreds of people who are comparing themselves to Jesus and saying that AH is like an angel sent from above and she's better than Gandhi and Nelson Mandela, and it was just a lot of just the most off-the-wall stuff you could ever imagine. So by the time I'm entering into the situation, I'm realizing that I'm not dealing with any irrational people. And once I say my first line, immediately, people start talking about my appearance, saying I'm fat. They start calling me a racist. They start saying I'm a stupid American. They call me a white supremacist misogynist. And they just start hurtling all type of insults at me. So by the time I started recording and documenting the situation, I had already lost most of my hope for these people. So I didn't approach it as seriously as I would have from the get-go, because these people were just totally acting like insane animals. And if you watch the video, you get a small taste of what these people were like. But it got to a point where I realized, okay, I'm dealing with irrational people here. And while I try to be sensitive to certain things, I also think that we've come to a point in our culture, in our society, in our country, in our world, where we have to take the kid gloves off here, okay? We can no longer tiptoe around these people and try to protect people's feelings, because they weren't worried about my feelings or anyone else's feelings. Anyone who spoke against their narrative, or even had a problem with the fact that they were promoting self-harm to thousands and thousands of people on social media, they immediately attacked. And it became apparent to me that this was also all about attention. That this, for a lot of the people in that group, it was all about attention. And, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not going to pretend to be a psychologist. I do know a lot of people who do harm themselves a lot, not all. Remember that I said not all, but a lot of people who do that to themselves, they do it as cries for help. They do it for attention. And when it became apparent to me that a lot of this was for attention, was when certain people would come into the group and they would allow them to speak according to how many followers, or if they had a blue check mark or not. At one point, a reporter for some news station actually came in and asked some questions. She wasn't on their side. She was going against what they were saying, but they allowed her to speak, and they talked about how it was important that they got more eyes on this. And eventually, Andy Signore came in the situation. They immediately made him a co-host. They talked about how he had a lot of subscribers, and a lot of people were watching his videos, so they really wanted him in the group. So I guess they really wanted that attention. They really wanted to get what they were doing in front of as many eyes as possible. And even after Andy left the chat, they started talking about how they needed to get more blue check marks in here so they could spread this message or whatever. I've come to realize that you cannot try to come up with logical explanations as to why or how or for I'm sorry, I'm almost at a loss for a word here. You can't come up with a logical explanation as to why these people do or act how they act. And these people were just all over the place. Really, really crazy, as most of you all heard. But like I stated, I wanted to approach it from a more serious standpoint, but it became apparent that I wasn't going to be able to do that. Although I still tried to hammer home some facts and some points in the dialect that I had with them. But it was obvious that they weren't interested in having a real conversation. They would mute me every time that I got a chance to talk. And they would talk over me, hurtle insults at me. And, you know, I'm unfazed by all of that. You know, people saying mean things to me online, I'm used to that. I'm okay with that. It's never a good thing to harass people online. But at the end of the day, I'm not a crybaby. I'm not a victim. I don't play the victim card like these people do. And that's what was going on here. And that's one of the problems that I want to address. And I've addressed this on a past video that was actually about a totally different topic. But we have to move away from this, you know, uplifting, like championing and rewarding victimhood. You know, being a victim, it's not a cool, popular thing to do. It's not a cool, popular thing to be. You know, most victims aren't happy that they're victims. Yet you have a whole generation of kids out here, young people, who strive to be victims somehow. A lot of these people probably live perfectly good lives, but they strive to be a victim. Therefore, they hurt themselves. They post pictures of it online because they want that attention. They want to be a victim of something. And it was clear here that these people wanted to be a victim of something. You know, they were using losing this court case as basically a platform to boost their own victimhood. You know what I mean? Like, oh, there's a lot of people paying attention to this trial. How can I get that attention put on me and play the victim card so people could lift me up on their shoulders as the most popular victim of all? You know, it's just gotten totally out of hand. Totally out of hand to the point that we have people protesting online over a celebrity trial, vowing that they would continue to hurt themselves until they got justice for Amber. But you see, a lot of women do this. Not all women, definitely not all women. Most women are actually not on AH's side. But a lot of women, some women, when they don't get their way, they resort to things like this. People who are doing this right now, they have the same exact mentality as AH. They want to be a victim. They want to play a victim. And when they don't get their way, they will do whatever it takes. You know, they will take their victimhood to whatever level that they have to take it in order to garnish what attention and whatever else they can get out of the situation. And it's like, this whole time I've been wondering what is going through the mind of people who are still supporting AH. After everything that has come out in this trial, what is going through these people's minds? And this is what is going through their mind. I haven't been able to really have a dialect with a single AH supporter. And when I finally do, it's this. And I'm not saying that everyone supports her is like this. But I mean, it kind of goes to show, you know, I don't see anything like this happening for Johnny Depp. So I feel like, for the most part, not everyone, for the most part, you have to be in a certain mental state to really still be supporting this woman to a certain extent. If you're someone who's actually been paying attention. And I mean, still, I sat down and I waited for a couple of hours before even filming this video. And I still haven't even fully processed what to say here. You know, I don't write scripts. I don't have people helping me on my videos. I turn my camera phone on and I get to talking. That's the process here at Cinema Shogun, okay? That's the process here. So I haven't even been able to formulate how I really feel about this situation, but it's extremely sad. It's so sad to the point that I couldn't do anything but laugh. When you have people this psychotic and so mean-spirited at the same time. People weren't there, it didn't appear that people were there to really get help. That people weren't there to really tell their story about what they're dealing with. If I had entered into that Twitter Spaces and people were talking about their own problems with, self-harm or what have you, and it seemed like, this was a place with, rational people for the most part, people who weren't just mean-spirited people, I would approach it differently. But these people were just all on there just spewing whatever hatred they could. And it just goes to show that it was never about, what AH went through. These people don't care about what AH went through or what she didn't go through. They don't care about Johnny Depp and what Johnny Depp went through. These people only cared about using this situation as a platform to boost their own victimhood. And that's because we live in a society that unfortunately rewards people who are fake victims, which is why AH got this far with this entire situation. It's why Jussie Smollett got that far before having to get called out. And then even when Jussie Smollett lost his court case, he was out of jail in 2 days. Our culture boosts these people up. And our younger generations strive for that. They're no longer wanting to be a doctor, a nurse, an astronaut, a fireman. No, they want to be a victim on the cover of Women's Magazine because they claim that some horrible man did something wrong to them when in reality he didn't. And they want to get fame and fortune from things like that because that is what is championed in our society. Okay? Be a victim and they'll put you on the cover of a Wheaties box in 2022. So, after sitting in this place for hours, it was just, it became to a point where it just felt like, what more is there to say here? What more is there to do here? The only thing that I can think of is that I need to spread the word about this. I need people to start having conversations about this. Because why is stuff like this allowed to go on online while other people, talking about myself here and countless others, aren't allowed to talk about certain things online, and yet these people are allowed to create whole movements with the sole purpose of getting other people to harm themselves? I want you to understand that it got to a point where they created 2 different factions within this Twitter space. What they called the Hang Club and the Cut Club. One half of the people were saying, people need to cut themselves to support AH. The other half were saying, no, you need to hang yourself to support AH. And I even made the point in my video because they kept trying to claim, we're not trying to appeal to minors. We're only trying to appeal to adults. Literally, out their own mouth, said, hey, we're not trying to get minors to hurt themselves. We're only trying to talk perfectly, sane adults into hurting themselves. They literally said that out their own mouth. But I made the point, they were coming up with these catchy names and catchy catchphrases in order to boost this and basically promote this movement. And for the most part, people weren't saying much in there. People were just going along with this. And it just totally blows my mind. It totally blows my mind. And then I have to sit here and try to formulate thoughts for YouTube when in reality, I can't put into words what this makes me feel like. And if I couldn't even say it on YouTube. I couldn't tell you my true opinion about this on YouTube. Yet these people could be on YouTube encouraging young people to do these things to themselves. That's where we're at, people. And I want to hammer that point home as much as possible. That's where we're at. But there's nothing that you can really do about it other than try to bring as much attention to this as possible. And that's not to bring attention to them. and to boost their platforms, but to show people that this is an issue, that this is a problem. And even at one point, these people were claiming that AH supports their movement and that AH let them know somehow that she supported their movement. And I'm not sure if that's true or not. It's probably fake. You can't really take these people, at their word. I mean, these are people who are on Twitter hurting themselves, so you can't really believe anything these people say. But all in all, it was just a very crazy experience. I never imagined that it would be that bad. That my first experience talking to a AH fan or talking to a whole group of AH fans would be that bad and psychotic. But boy, it was worse than I could ever possibly imagine. Worse than I can ever possibly imagine. And I want you all to understand, before I end this video, I started this video wanting to explain in full detail what I experienced today. But as I was talking to the camera, I realized that I can't even use these words. I can't use these phrases. I can't fully in depth talk about what I experienced because YouTube won't allow me to do so. So I literally had to water down this whole story and try to tiptoe around a lot of what was going on here. But it was one of those situations where you just had to be there. So shout out to everyone that was there, that followed me on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter right now. Follow me on Instagram. You never know when I may enter into a situation like this, and you're going to want to be there because I'm not always going to have the camera rolling. But I want to know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. Once again, like I said, forgive me if I'm all over the place here, but it's a really sensitive situation, and it's a situation that you can't really talk about on YouTube, and I'm doing the best job that I can to try to give you an idea of what happened here. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you support the channel, you can do so via Cash App, or you could drop a super thanks. But while you're here, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you on the next video.